The first time you make a comic book, it may not be good, but that's okay, as long as you don't stay there. I got into making comic books because I love comic books. After a while, you say, well, maybe I can do this professionally. Maybe I can make something good and sell to the public. That's what I did, and that's why Snooby Comics exists now. I think most people out here are watching my videos because they're in the same boat. They want to make comic books professionally and make them good enough independently so that they can sell their books, maybe make enough money to pay for the production of their books, and maybe have enough money at the end of the week that they can also buy a slice of pizza from their own creative artwork. So if you want to get yourself that slice of pizza at the end of the week, here are the 5 things you want to avoid that makes your comic book scream amateur. So number 1, a bad cover. People always say you can't judge a book by its cover, and it's true. I have read many comic books that had no cover at all. I don't know if any of you guys ever seen this before. They used to take comic books and they would tear the covers off the front of them, the ones that didn't sell in the stores, so that it was a way to get rid of the books and make some money on it without having to send them back to the distributor. They would tear the covers off and they would package them like 5-6 books in a bag, and you would get them without the cover. And you get them at like the corner store for like $1. And some of the best stories I ever read were in some of those books. But in the real world, your book will absolutely be judged by its cover. So I'm actually going to get ready to do a whole video about how to hire an artist and all these things you should look out for, because the person who does your interior pages in your book may not be the best person to do your exterior. So there are people you hire that just do covers. And I would strongly suggest that if your interior artist is not good at doing a cover, you hire a cover artist. And cover artists tend to charge more money, and a cover artist does everything. They do the penciling, outlining, the coloring, everything. Absolutely worth paying a cover artist to do your cover if the person who's doing the interior of your book cannot do a good cover, because your cover has to sing. It has to shine. It has to get people to say, wow, what is this about? And pick it up. Because if your book does not say pick me up, people will not pick it up. Number 2, inconsistent interior art. I have seen books, and I know what happens, because you'll hire an artist to do your book, and sometimes the artist will flake out. So you get a second artist, and they do the next 5-6 pages, and maybe they're being too slow and they can't get it done. So you get finished with your 22-page book, and you wind up having like 4 artists in the book, and the art seems to be going all over the place. That says amateur. Also, you got to watch for, sometimes it's the same artist, and the artist will start your book and they'll be doing a good job, and then they'll get tired of it, or maybe they got other work that came in and they just want to get rid of your book or get rid of this project to get on to the next one, and they'll start turning in pages that are not as good as the first set of pages.
This is obviously a little bit odd looking. This is art from Injustice, and it is genuinely one of the best comic runs I've ever read. There is a lot of genuinely great art in it. One of my personal favorite Catwoman drawings ever is in this exact issue that this Batman art is from. The reason that there is some goofy looking art in this series is because the artists were under an intense rush.
This is all going to be in that next how to hire an artist for your comic book video, so stay tuned for that. Number 3, bad lettering. Here is an example of bad lettering. In part, what makes bad lettering is when the lettering gets in the way of the art. Comics are a visual medium, and the art should be telling the story. The lettering should complement the art. So when you have bubbles that obstruct the art, that's bad. When you have bubbles that are too big for the words, that's bad. And in this case, the lettering is too light, and the font that's being used is very unintriguing. So it just kind of feels flat on the paper. And again, the lettering should complement the action and the story. So sometimes you have to use bold lettering. Sometimes you use lettering that's kind of passive, depending on how the story that you're telling and how it complements the art. But the lettering should complement the art, not getting the weight of the art. In this example here, you can see how the lettering is bad on the left and then how it got cleaned up a bit on the right. So there are a lot of things in lettering, and before you ask, yes, I'm doing a video on lettering is also on the list, but this is just to give you an example of what good and bad lettering is, and there are some tricks to the trade to make your lettering better so that it does not make your book look amateur. Know that comic book lettering is a skill set. I think anyone can do it. It's not like how it used to be when the letterer actually drew the letters on the comic book page. So I think anyone can do it, but there is a learning curve to it. And if you do not want to go into the learning curve, you can hire people to do lettering for you. Most letterers will only charge you about $15 a page. So for all the money that you'll spend on making your comic book, $15 a page for lettering is really not expensive. Number 4, poor printing. So when it comes to printing, there are 2 major components that makes good printing and bad printing. So the first one being that your margins are correct, that your safe area, your trim line, your full bleed, all of that is on point before you send your stuff off to the printer. And fortunately, I did an entire video on how to print your indie comic book, which I'll leave in the description below. Bad printing should not be an excuse anymore. Years ago, as I said before, that to get a comic book printed or get your book printed, you had to usually have to buy an order of 1,000 print run just to even get started to get books printed. So that's why a lot of people just couldn't sustain. But now, because of offset printing, you can print literally 1 comic book and have it be just as professional as if you had to print 1,000. So offset printing has changed the whole game. If you go to one of these companies like Kablam or Mixum or Comics Wellspring, and I haven't tried Comics Wellspring yet, but I'm going to try them next in my next project. The cost of printing a book is like $4.99 for one, and of course the more you buy, the cheaper it is. Stop trying to like nickel and dime your way on that, because if it's purely printed, it definitely screams amateur. All right, so number 5, and I got some pushback on this. No ISBN or UPC on your book. I had stated in a previous video that, being professional, you want to get a UPC on your book. So to clarify, your ISBN, your International Standard Book Number, the ISBN, is your number. That's the prefix on your code. And the UPC is the actual bar stripes that you put on the book that's actually scanned. That's US UPC. Those 2 things are together on the UPC. If you look at a UPC, the ISBN is the prefix numbers, and then the second part is the numbers for the issue of the book. I've had people tell me you don't have to have an ISBN to sell your book, and it's true, you don't. You don't need a UPC to sell your book, and that's true, you don't. You can sell your books without having those things on the book. But if you're trying to go beyond just a couple local stores, if you're trying to get yourself into a distribution channel, if you're trying to go into more than just, again, locally, you want to be able to have your book out there and have it be tracked, then you want to put an ISBN UPC barcode on your book. And here's what I want to say is this too. You want your ISBN UPC on your book. So to get a barcode in the United States of America, there's only one company. It's a private company that sells the barcodes, legal barcodes for your book that you can own under your name. And that's a company called Bowker. So if you go to Bowker, they will assign you your ISBN, which will be your name to your company, and then once they sign it, they will give you UPC codes to go to that. To buy one barcode under your ISBN, it costs $125. To buy 10, it costs $295. To buy 100, it's $575. So when you go to buy the barcode, be prepared to go ahead and buy 100. Don't say, well, I'll just buy 10 now and then I'll worry about the others later. Because the cost comparison doesn't even matter. It makes all the sense in the world to just go ahead and buy the 100 if you're going to be in this for real and you're going to go ahead and make more than one book. Because even if you make one book or you make a book and have different variations of it or different covers, you can go through those 10 barcodes very easily. So buy the 100. I suggest you buy the 100. Now, some people will say you can buy a barcode for like $20 off of this website or here. And the people who are selling those barcodes, they did buy the barcodes from Bowker. And again, the more barcodes you buy, the cheaper it is. So you can buy 1,000 barcodes, and then your barcodes at that point will cost something like $2 a piece. And those people are then selling their barcodes for like $25 a piece because they only pay $2 for them because they bought it in a bulk of 1,000. And that's how they're able to do it. But if you're buying a barcode from anywhere but Bowker, you're not buying it under your own ISBN. So for me, when people scan my book and an ISBN comes up, it comes up under Out the House Media LLC, which is my company, and it's attached to my company, a subsidiary. Snooby Comics is a subsidiary of my media company, Out the House Media LLC. So everything can be traced back to me, and it's my book. And that, when I am going forward and I'm going to approach the bigger distributors like Diamond and things like that, they will then look at me differently than just some geek off the street. And because, again, like I said, for me, this is about being professional. And I'm not making indie books at home anymore just for the sake of doing them for fun. I'm trying to be an actual business. If you're just getting started, I'm going to say this: just get started. If you don't have the money to do anything, just get started. Because yes, to do this professionally, it costs money. But please don't be discouraged, be encouraged. Because here's the thing. One, it is tremendously cheaper to do everything now than it ever has been in the past. Back in 2003, when I first got to the point to say I'm going to do my own comic book company, I realized it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I realized there were a lot more steps to climb than I thought it was going to be. And I realized it was a lot more expensive than I thought it was going to be. So just from 2003 to 2019, when I actually pushed the button and say, okay, I'm pushing the button, I'm going for this, it had gotten tremendously easier. It got tremendously less expensive, and the pathway of doing things is so much faster. So be encouraged, keep pressing, keep creating, and I will see you in the next video.